Angkor Wat, rise and fall of the Khmer Empire. In the heart of Southeast Asia, hidden beneath the dense canopy of Cambodian jungle, lies one of humanity's most extraordinary achievements. Angkor Wat stands as a testament to an empire that once dominated the region, a civilization whose power and sophistication rivaled the greatest kingdoms of the medieval world. This is the story of the Khmer Empire, a realm that rose from the fertile plains of the Mekong Delta to create an architectural wonder that would outlast the very empire that built it. Our story begins in the 9th century when a young prince named Jayavarman II returned to the land of his ancestors. The region we now call Cambodia was fragmented, divided among competing chieftains and subject to the influence of the mighty Javanese kingdoms to the south. In the year 802, Jayavarman performed a sacred ritual on Mount Kulen, declaring himself a Devaraja, a god-king, and establishing the foundations of what would become the Khmer Empire. This revolutionary concept merged spiritual authority with temporal power, creating a kingship that was both political and divine. The king was not merely a ruler chosen by the gods. He was understood to be a manifestation of the divine itself, a living bridge between heaven and earth. The early Khmer kings were masterful state builders. They understood that power in this tropical landscape flowed from a single source: water. The monsoon rains brought both blessing and curse, flooding the land for half the year and leaving it parched for the other. The genius of the Khmer lay in their ability to tame these waters, creating an elaborate system of reservoirs, canals, and rice paddies that transformed the landscape around their capital. These massive reservoirs, known as barrays, were engineering marvels, some stretching for miles and holding millions of gallons of water. The West Barray, built in the 11th century, measured over 5 miles long and more than a mile wide. This hydraulic city allowed the Khmer to harvest multiple rice crops each year, creating an agricultural surplus that fed a growing population and sustained an increasingly powerful state. With wealth came expansion. By the 10th century, the Khmer Empire controlled vast territories, extending from modern-day southern Vietnam in the east to parts of Thailand and Laos in the west and north. Successive kings built upon the achievements of their predecessors, each seeking to legitimize his rule through increasingly ambitious construction projects. Hindu temples rose from the jungle floor, their towers representing the sacred Mount Meru, the center of the universe in Hindu and Buddhist cosmology. These were not merely places of worship, but physical manifestations of divine order, recreations of the cosmos in stone and laterite. The empire reached its zenith under King Suryavarman II, who ascended to the throne around 1113. A military commander of exceptional skill, Suryavarman expanded Khmer influence into the Malay Peninsula and launched campaigns against the Vietnamese kingdoms of Champa and Dai Viet. But it would be his architectural legacy that would immortalize his reign. Beginning around 1120, Suryavarman embarked on the construction of a temple that would surpass all others, a monument to the Hindu god Vishnu and a testament to his own divine kingship. This temple was Angkor Wat. The scale of this undertaking was unprecedented. Angkor Wat covers an area of over 400 acres, making it the largest religious monument in the world. Its construction required an estimated 5 million tons of sandstone quarried from Mount Kulen 25 miles away and transported via a network of canals. Scholars estimate that building Angkor Wat required the labor of tens of thousands of workers, from skilled stonemasons to common laborers who moved the massive blocks into place. The temple's design is a masterpiece of symbolic architecture. Its 5 towers represent the 5 peaks of Mount Meru, rising 213 feet above the ground. The moat surrounding the temple symbolizes the cosmic ocean, while the galleries and courtyards represent the mountains and continents of the Hindu universe. But Angkor Wat is more than an architectural achievement. Its walls contain one of the world's longest continuous bas-reliefs, stretching for nearly half a mile. These intricate carvings depict scenes from Hindu mythology, particularly the Ramayana and Mahabharata, as well as historical processions showing the power and grandeur of Suryavarman's court. One gallery showcases the churning of the ocean of milk, a creation myth in which gods and demons work together to extract the elixir of immortality. The detail is extraordinary. Every figure, from celestial dances to mythical creatures, is rendered with precision and artistry. These bas-reliefs serve as both religious instruction and political propaganda, demonstrating the divine mandate and earthly power of the Khmer kings. The construction techniques employed at Angkor Wat reveal a sophisticated understanding of engineering and astronomy. The temple is precisely aligned to the cardinal directions, with the main entrance facing west, an unusual orientation that has led scholars to debate whether Suryavarman intended it as his funerary temple. The blocks were fitted together without mortar, relying on the precise cutting of stone and the use of dovetails and other joining techniques. The Khmer had not discovered the arch, instead using corbelling to create their vaulted ceilings, stacking stones in gradually overhanging layers until they met at the top. Following Suryavarman's death around 1150, the empire faced a period of instability and external threat. The kingdom of Champa, long a rival to the Khmer, launched a devastating naval attack in 1177, sailing up the Tonle Sap Lake and sacking the capital of Angkor. The city burned, and the empire seemed on the verge of collapse. But from this crisis emerged one of the greatest rulers in Khmer history, Jayavarman VII, a prince who had spent years away from the capital, possibly in self-imposed exile. Jayavarman rallied the Khmer forces and expelled the Cham invaders. In 1181, he claimed the throne and embarked on a building program that would transform both the empire and its spiritual identity. Jayavarman VII was a devoted Buddhist, and under his rule, Angkor shifted from a predominantly Hindu kingdom to a Buddhist one. He constructed a new capital, Angkor Thom, covering nearly 4 square miles and enclosed by walls over 25 feet high. At its center stood the Bayon, a temple whose 54 towers are carved with over 200 massive faces, serene and enigmatic, gazing out in all directions. These faces, believed to represent either the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara or Jayavarman himself, have become iconic symbols of Angkor's artistic achievement. Jayavarman also built hospitals, rest houses along the empire's roads, and temples throughout his realm, demonstrating a concern for his subjects' welfare that was unusual among medieval monarchs. But this frenzy of construction came at a cost. The resources required to build Angkor Thom, the Bayon, and dozens of other temples strained the empire's economy. The corvée labor system, which required commoners to contribute their work to royal projects, became increasingly burdensome. Agricultural production, the foundation of Khmer power, may have begun to decline as labor was diverted from the rice fields to construction sites. The intricate water management system, which required constant maintenance, may have suffered from neglect. The 13th century brought new challenges from beyond the empire's borders. To the west, the Thai kingdoms were growing in strength, their people migrating south from Yunnan in southern China, establishing settlements and eventually kingdoms that would challenge Khmer hegemony. The Mongol invasions of China and Southeast Asia in the latter half of the 13th century disrupted trade networks and created political instability throughout the region. In 1296, a Chinese diplomat named Zhou Daguan visited Angkor and left a detailed account of the capital in its late glory. He described a wealthy city with magnificent palaces and temples, bustling markets, and elaborate court ceremonies. But he also noted the presence of Thai prisoners and mercenaries, a hint of the military pressures the empire faced. The 14th century saw the gradual decline of Khmer power. The Ayutthaya kingdom, founded by the Thai in 1351, grew increasingly aggressive, launching repeated invasions of Khmer territory. In 1431, after a prolonged siege, Ayutthaya forces captured Angkor. While some scholars debate whether this event marked the definitive end of Angkor as a capital, it clearly represented a turning point. The Khmer court relocated south to Phnom Penh, closer to the Mekong River and more easily defended. Angkor, the great capital that had been the heart of the empire for 6 centuries, was gradually abandoned. Why did the Khmer Empire fall? Historians continue to debate this question, and the answer is likely a combination of factors rather than a single cause. Environmental degradation may have played a crucial role. Recent research using advanced laser mapping technology has revealed that Angkor was far larger than previously believed, a sprawling urban complex that covered over 400 square miles, making it one of the largest pre-industrial cities in the world. Supporting such a massive population required an agricultural system pushed to its limits. Some evidence suggests that the elaborate water management system may have become overextended and brittle, vulnerable to both droughts and floods. Tree ring data from the region indicates that the 14th and 15th centuries saw severe climate variability, with extended droughts punctuated by extreme monsoons, potentially overwhelming the hydraulic infrastructure. The shift from Hinduism to Buddhism under Jayavarman VII may have also contributed to the empire's decline, though in more subtle ways. Buddhist teachings emphasized individual spiritual development rather than the glorification of god-kings, potentially undermining the ideological foundation that had sustained Khmer royal authority for centuries. The massive temple-building projects of Jayavarman VII, while religiously motivated, may have exhausted the empire's resources without providing the same political returns as earlier construction had. External pressures were equally important. The rise of maritime trade in Southeast Asia during the 14th and 15th centuries favored coastal kingdoms over inland empires. The Khmer Empire had been built on agricultural wealth and control of overland trade routes. But as global commerce increasingly moved by sea, Angkor found itself geographically disadvantaged. The Thai kingdoms, better positioned to take advantage of these new trade networks, grew wealthy and powerful, while Khmer influence waned. Military defeats at the hands of Ayutthaya, not only reduced Khmer territory, but also disrupted the tributary system that had channeled wealth and labor to the capital. Yet Angkor was never completely abandoned. Even after the court's departure, the city remained inhabited, and Angkor Wat itself continued to function as a Buddhist monastery. The temple that Surya Varman II had built as a Hindu shrine was gradually transformed, with Buddhist images added and Hindu iconography adapted to Buddhist purposes. This religious continuity ensured that Angkor Wat was never lost to the jungle in the way that other Khmer temples were. Local monks and villagers maintained the complex, and it remained a site of pilgrimage for Cambodian Buddhists throughout the centuries of the kingdom's decline. The temples that were abandoned did not disappear overnight. Nature reclaimed them slowly, patiently. Massive silk cotton trees grew from walls and towers, their roots prying apart the carefully fitted stones. Moss and lichen covered the intricate carvings. Galleries collapsed under the weight of vegetation and neglect. By the 19th century, when French explorers began to visit the region, they found a landscape of magnificent ruins emerging from the jungle, a lost civilization frozen in stone. The French naturalist Henri Moreau, who visited Angkor in 1860, published accounts of the temples that captured the Western imagination, though he was not, as sometimes claimed, their discoverer. Cambodians had always known of Angkor's existence, and the temples had been visited by Portuguese and Spanish missionaries centuries earlier, but Muhat's descriptions, accompanied by detailed drawings, sparked international interest in the site. In the following decades, French archaeologists began the work of clearing, documenting, and stabilizing the monuments, a process that continues to this day. The 20th century brought both tragedy and renewed attention to Angkor. During the Khmer Rouge regime, from 1975 to 1979, Cambodia suffered one of the darkest chapters in human history, with an estimated 1.7 to 2 million people dying from execution, starvation, and disease. While the Khmer Rouge left the temples of Angkor relatively untouched, viewing them as symbols of Khmer greatness. The country's infrastructure and expertise in archaeological conservation were devastated. The subsequent decades of civil war further hindered preservation efforts. Since the 1990s, following the restoration of peace, international teams have worked alongside Cambodian authorities to preserve and restore Angkor, employing both traditional techniques and cutting-edge technology. Today, Angkor Wat stands as a powerful symbol of Cambodian national identity. It appears on the national flag, the only nation to feature a building on its flag. More than 2 million tourists visit the site each year, drawn by its beauty, history, and spiritual significance. But Angkor represents more than a tourist destination or historical curiosity. It is a reminder of human capacity for creation, of the heights civilizations can reach, and the fragility of even the greatest empires. The Khmer built an empire that lasted 6 centuries, created artistic masterpieces that rank among humanity's greatest achievements, and developed engineering solutions to environmental challenges that modern societies still study. As we stand before these ancient stones, we are confronted with profound questions. How does a civilization endure? What causes great empires to fall? Can human ambition create monuments that outlast the very purposes for which they were built? Angkor Wat, conceived as a temple to a Hindu god and a tomb for a king, has transcended its original purpose to become something greater, a testament to human creativity, ambition, and the enduring power of art and architecture to speak across centuries. The Khmer Empire may have fallen, its cities abandoned, and its power dispersed, but in these magnificent ruins, its spirit lives on, challenging us to consider our own civilizations and what we will leave for future generations to discover. The jungle that once threatened to consume Angkor has been pushed back, but it waits still at the forest's edge, a reminder that nature ultimately reclaims all human works. Yet as long as these temples stand, as long as pilgrims and visitors walk their galleries and marvel at their towers, the story of the Khmer Empire continues to be told, a story of rise and fall, of human achievement and human hubris, forever carved in stone beneath the Cambodian sky.